Welcome back to The Architect of Self. I'm Carl. This is where we strip away the excuses. This is where we stop pretending life is supposed to be easy. And this is where we face the truth of what it takes to live, not just exist. If you've been with me through the last series, Personal Control and Opportunity, you know the ground we've already covered. 8 tough-fought rounds: discipline, fear, resilience, acceptance, consistency, pain, gratitude, and intentions. That was your foundation, the floor you're standing on right now. But today, we move into the real fight. Not the one outside, but the one inside. This series is called The Unconquered Mind. Because if your mind falls, everything else collapses. It doesn't matter how much you've built. It doesn't matter how strong you look on the outside. If your head is conquered, you're already done. This series is about building a fortress inside, about clarity in the middle of chaos, about being unshaken. Not because the storm disappears, but because you refuse to hand it the power. Now, before we get started, as always, I want to make something clear. This isn't therapy. I'm not your therapy buddy, and this podcast is not a replacement for professional mental health treatment. If you're struggling with anxiety, depression, trauma, or any other issues, reach out to somebody. Call 988. What we do here is raw, practical, and real. It's for reflection, it's for growth, it's for building mental strength, but it is not for diagnosis or treatment. Let's dive into it. The why of the unconquered mind. Let's get blunt. Your mind is the only thing you will ever fully own. Think about that for a second. Everything else in your life, your house, your car, your job, even the people around you, can be taken away, changed, or lost. You don't truly control them. Even your own body shifts with age, illness, or injury. Strength fades, looks fade, health falters. But your mind? That's the command post. That's the one piece of ground you can defend no matter what. If you lose that, you've lost everything. And yet, most people hand it over. Not in one dramatic moment, but slowly, quietly, piece by piece. A little surrender here to a comparison, a little surrender there to doubt. Another chunk is handed off to distractions that eat hours without meaning. Before long, the fortress is empty, the walls are down, the flag is gone. And that's when the whisper creeps in. You know the one. The voice at 3 a.m. that says, "You're not enough. You'll never be enough. So why even try?" That whisper is what conquers most people. Not failure itself, but the story they build around it. Not pain itself, but the meaning they attach to it. Pause here and ask yourself, where have you surrendered pieces of you? Is it when you let social media dictate how you feel about yourself? Is it when you replay a mistake over and over, as if keeping it alive will somehow fix it? Is it when you let someone else's opinion become the measuring stick for your own worth? That's a conquered mind. Not because you're weak, but because you've forgotten that your headspace is yours to defend. Now let me flip it. An unconquered mind? That's different. That's someone standing steady in the middle of chaos, grounded, clear, unshaken. Not because the storm never hits them, but because they built something inside that the storm can't touch. It doesn't mean they never feel fear. They do. It doesn't mean they never stumble. They will. It doesn't mean they don't bleed, cry, or ache. Of course they do. It means they've drawn a line. This storm can take my sleep, my energy, maybe even things I love, but I will not let it take my mind. That is mine. That is the unconquered mind. And here's the hard truth. No one builds it for you. You can't borrow someone else's fortress. You can't outsource it to your partner, your coach, your therapist, or your faith. You can lean on people, yes. You can find support, yes. But the choice to build that fortress, to stand, to defend, to refuse surrender, that's yours alone. So ask yourself right now, who or what has been conquering my mind? What have I allowed to take up space that weakens me instead of strengthening me? And am I ready today to start reclaiming that ground? Because until you answer that honestly, every tool, every practice, every principle I give you in this series really won't matter. You'll keep building on quicksand. This is why the unconquered mind matters, because everything else rests on it. Your relationships, your work, your ability to handle pain, your ability to show up for your family. If the mind falls, everything else follows. But if the mind stands, fortified, steady, clear, you become unstoppable. Let's look how this is in real life. Her name's Rachel. She's not famous, not powerful, not untouchable. She's an ordinary person with an extraordinary job. Rachel's a trauma nurse. Picture it. Bright fluorescent lights that never dim. The sharp sting of antiseptic in the air. Machines beeping in uneven rhythms, some fast and urgent, some long and flat. A constant reminder that life and death are trading places in real time. Every shift is a gauntlet, a car accident victim with glass still in their skin, an overdose pulled out of an alley, a child burning with fever that spikes without warning. And then the families. The waiting room filled with faces caught between hope and devastation. On the outside, Rachel looks steady, calm. She's practiced. She knows where the instruments are, when to shout an order, when to step in, and when to step back. To anyone watching, she looks like control. But inside, her mind is under siege. One night, a boy is rushed in. Teenager. Gunshot wound to the chest. The team swarms him, doctors shouting vitals, Rachel holding pressure, hands trembling, though she doesn't let it show. The room feels like it's collapsing inward. Beeps, voices, blood. Minutes stretch like hours, but then, flatline. Despite everything, they lose him. And it's Rachel who has to walk out into the hallway. It's Rachel who looks into the mother's eyes and says words no parents should ever hear. And it's Rachel who hears a scream that follows. So raw, so primal. It feels like it pierces bone. That night, Rachel drives home in silence. No music, no phone, just the sound of the road under her tires and the echo of the scream in her head. She lies awake at 4 a.m., staring at the ceiling. Replay after replay, the boy's face, the mother's collapse, the whisper in her head, "You weren't enough. You should have done more. You should have stopped it." That's what a conquered mind looks like. Not the outside world, but the replay loop inside your skull. The guilt, the doubt, the shame. It's relentless. It doesn't need to shout. It just needs to whisper. And here's the thing. Rachel could have stayed there. She could have drowned in the weight of it. She could have let the scream become her soundtrack for the rest of her life. Many do. But she didn't. Slowly, she started building her fortress. Not in a huge, dramatic gesture, but in quiet, daily choices. After each shift, she wrote 1 or 2 sentences in a journal. Not polished, not pretty, just raw notes to anchor herself. I showed up. I carried someone else's storm. I can't control outcomes. I can only control me. When her emotions tried to overwhelm her, she learned to name them instead of letting them drag her under. This is grief. This is anger. This is exhaustion. Naming the storm stripped it out of its mystery. It was no longer everything. It was something. And something can be faced. And before each shift, Rachel started a ritual. 5 minutes. Breathing, grounding, no screens, no chatter, just presence. Building the citadel in her mind before she stepped into the storm again. Little by little, brick by brick, Rachel's mind became less conquered. Not painless, not perfect, but fortified. And here's what matters. Her story isn't about nursing. It's about humanity. Her storm happens to be in a hospital. Yours might be at a desk, in a classroom, in a marriage, in your own head at 2 a.m. But the mechanics are still the same. Chaos outside, replay loop inside, the choice between collapse and fortress. So I'll ask you, what's your version of Rachel's 4 a.m. stare? What's the moment, the memory, the loop that keeps conquering you? Don't dodge the question. Sit in it. Because until you name it, you can't build against it. Let's look at the blueprint. What we'll build. So how do you build an unconquered mind? Not in one leap. Not in one book. Not in a single motivational high. You build it like a fortress, brick by brick, choice by choice, daily, relentless. And this series, this is your blueprint. 8 principles, 8 weapons, 8 bricks that, stacked together, can create a fortress no storm can topple. Let me walk you through them. The inner citadel. This is your stronghold, your inner safe room, the part of your mind no chaos can touch unless you unlock the door for it. Think of Rachel, the hospital noise, screaming mother. Her citadel wasn't outside those walls. It was inside her head, the place she returned to when everything else was breaking. Here's your reflection. What's the inner room in your mind that no one else gets to enter? And have you built it? Or have you left the door wide open for chaos to stroll in? The tyranny of emotion. We all feel fear, anger, grief, joy. But most people let emotions run the show. They let rage drive the car. They let fear dictate every step. They let grief define their identity. The unconquered mind doesn't kill emotions. It reclaims the throne. Emotions are signals, not orders. They tell you what's happening, but they don't get to decide what you do next. Reflection. Which emotion has been bossing you around lately? And how much longer are you willing to live as its employee? The power of focus. The conquered mind is scattered, distracted, spinning plates that all crash anyway. The unconquered mind locks in. It sees the target, strips away the noise, and moves with clarity. Rachel didn't need to fix the whole world. She needed to focus on her next patient, her next shift, her next breath. That's how she kept building. Reflection? What's your next brick? Not your whole castle. Your next brick. The enemy within. Here's the ugly truth. Your biggest enemy is not the critic on social media, not your boss, not your partner. It's the voice in your head that says, "You're not enough." That voice doesn't need to shout. It whispers, it corrodes, and if you don't confront it, it will own you. Reflection. When was the last time your own voice sabotaged you? And did you even notice? Or did you accept it as truth? The discipline of perception. You don't control the world. You control how you see it. Obstacles aren't dead ends. They're weights to train with. Chaos isn't punishment. It's a proving ground. The conquered mind sees disaster. The unconquered mind sees the chance to grow. Reflection. What obstacle in your life is actually training material in disguise? The art of stillness. Most people panic when silence hits. They fill it with noise, scrolling, chatter. But the fortress is built on stillness. The space where you hear your own thoughts and you decide which ones live and which ones die. Reflection. When was the last time you chose silence instead of distraction? And what did it show you? The chains of expectation. How much of your life are you living because someone else told you to? Parents, bosses, culture, social media. An unconquered mind breaks those chains. It stops chasing approval. It chooses alignment. Reflection. Whose approval are you still building your life around? And what would change if you let it go? The eternal now. The past wants to chain you. The future wants to distract you. But the only place you ever actually live is right now. The unconquered mind owns the present moment. Not perfectly, but fiercely. Reflection. What are you missing today because you're too busy replaying yesterday or predicting tomorrow? That's the blueprint. 8 bricks, 8 weapons, 8 practices. And here's the raw truth. This isn't optional. You don't build an unconquered mind on an accident. You either build it intentionally or the world builds something for you. And I assure you, you won't like what the fortress looks like if it's built for you. So which will it be? All right, let's start getting into the work. Your first drill, the 5-minute fortress. Let's start simple. You don't build a fortress in a day. You build it brick by brick. And I want to give you your first brick today. I call it the 5-minute fortress drill. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking for. Before the world comes crashing in, before your phone lights up, before the kids scream, before your boss pulls you into another problem. Take 5 minutes. 5 minutes that are all yours. Here's how it works. Step 1, define your citadel. Your mind is a fortress, but right now, the doors are wide open, and anyone or anything can walk in. So start here. Ask yourself, what's the one thing I won't let invade my head today? Maybe it's gossip. Maybe it's comparison. Maybe it's shame. Maybe it's the not enough loop. Pick one, name it, write it down if you have to. That's your wall for today. Step 2, name the enemy. This is where most people fail. They feel fear, anger, grief, and they think, this is me. But emotions aren't you. They're signals, data. They're the weather, not the landscape. So pause, ask yourself, what's the emotion trying to take over today? Fear, anger, guilt? Say it out loud. This is fear. This is anger. This is shame. By naming it, you shrink it. It's not everything anymore. It's just something, and something can be faced. Lock your focus. Most people wake up scattered. 10 tasks, 50 distractions, and 0 clarity. That's a conquered mind. So strip it down. Pick one mission for today. Just one. What matters most? What's the brick you're laying right now? Don't get cute with it. Don't overthink it. One mission. Write it. Own it. Find your anchor. Your body is always in the present. Your mind is the one that wanders. So, bring them together. 10 breaths. Slow, steady. Inhale. Exhale. Feel your feet on the ground. Your chest rising. Your hands unclenching. This is the part no one wants to do because it feels too simple. But simple isn't weak. Simple is power. Stillness is the root of the fortress. Set your truth. This is your flag on the wall. One sentence that sets the tone for the day. I am building my fortress. I will not be conquered today. I choose clarity over chaos. Say it out loud or write it, but make it real. And that's that. 5 simple steps. 5 minutes. Not flashy, not complicated. But if you do this for 3 mornings in a row, you'll feel the shift. You'll start to notice when your mind is being invaded. You'll start to recognize when emotions are trying to take command. You'll start to feel the walls of your fortress taking shape. And here's the gut check. Are you willing to give yourself 5 minutes before the world takes everything else from you? Or are you going to keep handing over your headspace the second your alarm goes off? That choice, that 5 minutes, is the difference between conquered and unconquered. So let me ask you this one more time. What's the loudest battle in your head right now? Don't skim past that question. Don't let it slide off like another podcast soundbite. Stop and actually face it. Is it fear? The kind that paralyzes you when you should be moving? The kind that has you living small when you know there's something bigger in you? And maybe that fear isn't standing alone. Maybe it's being fed by guilt. Guilt over what you did or didn't do. Guilt that whispers, if you try again, you'll fail again. If you step up, you'll let them down again. But it's not just the past. Sometimes the heaviest guilt is present tense, the kind planted in you by someone else's hands. The guilt of being gaslighted into believing you're the problem. The guilt of being told you're too much or you're not enough until you start carrying their judgment like it's your truth. The guilt of feeling wrong for wanting what you need, for drawing a line, for refusing to play small. That kind of guilt doesn't just sit there. It mutates. It feeds fear. It convinces you that every step forward will only prove them right. That if you stand up for yourself, you'll be abandoned. That if you speak the truth, you'll be punished. It's guilt weaponized against you, and when it fuses with fear, it's one of the strongest chains you'll ever have to break. Is it anger? The kind that festers long after the moment passed. The kind that replays a betrayal like a highlight reel. A cutting word from someone you trusted, a broken promise that you can't let dissolve. Anger is seductive. It convinces you it's strength, when really it's corrosion. It keeps you burning on the inside while nothing changes on the outside. It keeps you locked in the story of what they did instead of free in the story of what you'll do next. Anger keeps you chained to people and situations that don't deserve another second of your life. But yet you keep feeding them by reliving the wound. Is it shame? The kind that cuts deeper than anger ever could. Shame doesn't just tell you that you did something wrong. It tells you that you are the something wrong. It brands you. You wake up with it. You go to bed with it. You convince yourself that everyone else can see it written on you, even when they can't. And shame is clever. It doesn't need to scream. It whispers just enough to keep you small, to keep you hiding, to keep you apologizing for everything. Shame tells you to settle for less because you don't deserve more. It tells you to stay quiet because your voice doesn't matter. It tells you to keep replaying your worst moments until they become the definition of who you are. Or maybe it's disappointment. The quiet, heavy kind. The hollow ache of wanting more, wanting love, success, peace, and instead you got silence. No callback, no apology, no closure. Just empty hands. Whatever it is, fear, guilt, anger, shame, disappointment. It's not everything. It feels like everything, but it isn't. It's just something, and something can be faced. Rachel's story proves it. She had every reason to fold, to let the scream become her whole soundtrack, to let one loss define her entire identity. She could have just let guilt and grief fuel her fear until she never stepped foot in that hospital again. But she didn't. She built her fortress, brick by brick, in small daily choices. And here's the part you can't ignore. Her storm happened in a trauma bay. Yours might be in a kitchen, in an office, in a classroom, or in your own bed at 2 a.m. staring at the ceiling. The scenery changes, but the mechanics don't. Chaos outside, replay loop inside. The choice between collapse and fortress. So I'll ask you again, what's your version of Rachel's 4 a.m. stare? And what brick are you going to lay against it? Will it be one sentence in a journal? Will it be 10 breaths before you unlock your phone? Will it be a single line of truth? I will not be conquered today. Say it out loud, even if your voice shakes. Because here's the raw truth. No one else can do this for you. You can borrow strength from mentors, inspiration from books, encouragement from friends, but no one can build your fortress but you. You either choose it or you surrender. And if you're honest, some of you listening right now, you've been living surrendered for years. You've let fear call the shots. You've let guilt pour fuel on the fire. You've let anger eat your peace. You've let shame write your story. You've let disappointment convince you to stop, trying. So here's your challenge. This week, I want you to run the 5-minute fortress drill. Not once. Not when you have time. 3 mornings, 5 minutes each. And I want you to pay attention, not just to how you feel in the moment, but to what excuses pop up. The voice that says 5 minutes won't matter. The one that says, I'll start tomorrow. That voice is the enemy within. And when you hear it, you'll know exactly where you're conquered. So call it out, name it, fight it, lay the brick anyway, because that's the choice in front of you, fortress or collapse, conquered or unconquered, and you don't get to live both. You can't live half fortresses, half collapse. You can't keep one foot in ownership and the other in surrender. You can't build walls in the morning and then hand the keys out to your enemies by the night. Life doesn't give you partial credit here. Either you're guarding your mind or you're letting someone else occupy it. Either you're building or you're being torn down. So ask yourself, which life have I really been living? If you're honest, you'll feel the sting. You'll see the cracks in your fortress. You'll notice the places where you've been conquered and pretended it didn't matter. Maybe it's the way you silence yourself to keep the peace. Maybe it's the loop you replay instead of facing the future. Maybe it's the guilt someone else taught you to carry that you've mistaken for truth. But denial won't save you. Avoidance won't protect you. A fortress doesn't build itself. So here's a line in the sand. If you don't fight for your mind, no one else will. If you don't build the fortress, the storm will. And when it does, you won't just lose your peace. You'll lose your clarity, your relationships, your ability to stand tall when life demands it most. That's the cost of surrender. So decide right here, right now, not tomorrow, not when things settle down. This moment, decide whether you're going to live conquered or unconquered. Because one path leads to collapse, the other leads to freedom. And there is no middle ground. If you made it this far, thank you. I don't take your time lightly. Every minute you choose to listen here is a minute you could have given into distraction, to noise, to anything else. But you gave it here, and that matters. Remember, the fortress doesn't build itself. 5 minutes, 3 days, lay the bricks. And don't just let this episode fade out with the music. Carry it into your week. Do the drill. Sit with the questions. Face your 4 a.m. stare. Then, make sure you're back here next time, because we're going deeper. One principle at a time. One weapon at a time. Sharpening the unconquered mind until it's unbreakable. So stay with me. Stay in the fight. And if this hits something inside of you, share it with someone who needs it too. Until then, stay raw, stay steady, stay unconquered.